going on, everyone? My name is Donovan, and today I'm super excited to share with you a brand new upgraded phone from our friends over at Blue. This is the Blue G9 Pro. This is a follow-up to the phone that I reviewed 3 months ago, the Blue G9, and this is a phone that has been upgraded in every possible sense of the word, and it definitely is deserving of that Pro label they get here with the G9 Pro. So this phone is launching today, August 27th, for $200. After that, it goes up to the regular price of $250. So it's about $70 more than what the original G9 was. The original G9 right now is $180. So when this one goes up to its regular price, it'll be up to $250. But like I mentioned, today only there's a $50 discount, bringing it down to $200. So let's go ahead and take a look at the specs. As typical fashion with Blue, they list pretty much all the specs you'll want to know about the phone here on the back. And like I mentioned, it's an upgrade in just about every possible way. So we have a 6.3-inch full HD display, same size display as the regular G9. The difference here is that now we have a full HD display, whereas the previous phone had a 720p display. This one has a 1080p. We have Corning Gorilla Glass 3, MediaTek Helio P60 processor. Now the original G9 had the P22 processor, so definitely a nice upgrade when it comes to the processor. This one has 128 gigs of storage and 4 gigs of RAM, so basically it's doubling the storage, so it went from 64 to 128. The RAM is actually the same. We have a triple AI camera on the back, whereas the original G9 had dual cameras. This one adds an extra 20 megapixel camera. So the original one had 16 and 5 megapixel cameras. This one has 20, 16, and 5. And it also has that AI, which they mentioned with the processor as well. And we'll take a look at that AI camera in just a little bit. It says super pixel with 96 megapixel super zoom, which that's kind of a play on things, because basically they're taking these depth sensors and these different sensors and combining them to get that 96 megapixels. We have a 24 megapixel selfie camera. I believe the original G9 had a 16 megapixel selfie camera, or maybe a 20. Can't remember that one off the top of my head. We have a fingerprint sensor. We can expand the memory with a 128 gig SD card. Same size battery, so that one is not an upgrade. We have 4,000 milliamp hour battery, and this one's awesome. So 18-watt quick charging, but then also wireless charging, and it actually has 10-watt wireless charging, so fast wireless charging, which is really exciting. We have 4G LTE, of course, Android 9, and then it also comes with a premium glass battery back design. So let's go ahead and open it up, and in typical Blue fashion, they include a bunch of goodies in here as well. So you can see I haven't even unwrapped it yet. So we have a couple of wrappers here, one on the back, and you can see we have that glossy glass back there. And then on the front, we have a screen protector, which lists a bunch of the specs there again, so we don't really need to look at those specs all over again. Don't need to rehash those, but we'll go ahead and turn the phone on, and you can see there's that full HD display. Now, I have added a couple of apps to it already, because I wanted to go ahead and throw in some tests, but these are the apps it comes with. Not a lot of bloatware. There are two things on here that I definitely consider bloatware, so like this Coin Master, for instance, which when if we go into app info, I'm just going to go ahead and uninstall, but I didn't want to uninstall them until I showed you that it does actually come with a couple of bloatware. So we also have Solitaire. I'm not really into especially games that they throw in on phones, but you can see it does have FM radio. Outside of that, it pretty much has stock apps. We do have Opera Mobile, but of course it does come with Google Chrome, and you can use whatever operating system you want. We have Speed Test is the one that I added. I also added Geekbench 4, and we'll take a look at that Geekbench 4 score here in just a little bit. But as far as the software goes, this is pretty much running a stock version of Android 9. So when you go up here into our settings, you'll see that there's mostly stock Android look to it, or stock Android 9.0 look to it. We'll take a look at some of the system options there in just a little bit. But first, let's take a look at what you get in the box. So, like I mentioned, in typical Blue fashion, of course, we get a bunch of accessories. So we have a Type-C cable here. So cool. Yes, it does charge up with Type-C, and we'll take a look around the phone just a little bit. We have our Blue headphones here. Don't use those real often, but it's nice that they at least have them. We have a 3 amp charger, so this is definitely a fast charger here. So if we go get that to focus, you can see here this is a fast charger, so it charges up to 3 milliamp hours. And then we have a Blue sticker here, silica gel, SIM removal tool, See some SIM information, G9 Pro quick guide, and this is probably my favorite part about Blue phones is that they also include a case. Now this case is just going to be a clear case. Nothing super exciting about it, but at least you get one with the phone, so you're not going to, if you drop the phone on accident, at least you'll have a case that has some protection to it. So TPU case clear, and then also a tempered glass screen protector. So that's really exciting. I like it when they include a tempered glass screen protector because obviously with it being a relatively uncommon brand, you're not going to find a whole lot of accessories for it, so it's nice that they include those with it. So we do also have that tempered glass screen protector, which I'll go ahead and install in just a little bit. But first, let's go ahead and take a look around the phone. So you can see we have that Blue G9 Pro. They mentioned the cameras here on the back as well. There's our fingerprint sensor, our triple camera setup. Now the Blue G9 actually had the dual cameras right here, so they moved them over here to the, we'll call it the top left of the phone, or at least in the camera it's the top left. We have our flash here. We have our volume rocker, and our power button, you can see, does have some nice ridges to it, so it's super easy to find. But then of course the case has those has it raised as well. And then on the bottom, of course, we have our Type-C speaker, microphone, and then our 3.5mm headphone jack. Along the left hand side we have our SIM tray. Now I've already put my T-Mobile SIM in here. We have our 24 megapixel camera up here and our earpiece as well, and another microphone up here, and I think that's pretty much it. The battery, of course, is non-removable because it's a glass back. Now, I already mentioned the Android 9.0. This is pretty much running stock Android. As I mentioned, that 4 gigs of RAM with that Helio P25 processor, Helio P60 processor combined for some pretty solid Geekbench scores, especially for a phone at this price point. So here is the Geekbench score I ran yesterday on the phone. So a single core score of 1421, multi-core score of 5542. So they compare this up quite a bit with the Moto G7 line, so the Moto G7, Moto G7 Power, and this one definitely has, in terms of just Geekbench 4 scores, some higher scores than what you get on that phone. And like I mentioned earlier, this does support wireless charging, so we'll go ahead and slap it on there. So this is my portable wireless charger here, so I actually gotta get it on there right, because it should be charging up wirelessly. There we go. Alright, so you just gotta line it up with the wireless charging coils, but you can see that now it is wirelessly charging, and it does support 10 watt fast wireless charging, which is really cool. So if you have a fast wireless charger, you will be able to use that with this device. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the software options we have here on the Blue G9 Pro, and as I mentioned before, this is pretty much running stock Android 9.0. There are a few tweaks here that Blue offers, so we'll go ahead and take a look at those. But one thing I did want to mention is when you go in here to mobile network or Wi-Fi or any of these more network settings, one thing that I do notice that is missing is Wi-Fi calling. So a lot of people want to know when they get a phone if it has Wi-Fi calling available. I do not see that option anywhere here in the network and internet options. Now, the phone does feature a bunch of great options. So we have Face ID, fingerprint security, we have portrait mode with those rear cameras, and we'll take a look at that in just a little bit. I've done a few shots with it so far, and so far I've been really impressed. We have AI, intelligent technology, which they use with those rear cameras, new navigation mode, and then also that 96 megapixel super zoom camera. But let's go ahead and first of all take a look at some of the settings here. So we're not going to go into display. Basically, that's just going to allow you to change the brightness. It does have auto brightness, and you come in here, you can adjust the screen saturation. So we have standard, vivid, color, cool color, and then customize it. So if we use that vivid, that's going to make it look more like an AMOLED display instead of an LCD display. So that option is available. Under the personalize, of course, we can change our wallpaper. That's nothing special, but let's go back, and we have our navigation bar. So this is what they were talking about, the new option of navigating. So typically you would have virtual keys down here, so you'd have that back, home, and recent apps options, but they do have right here the sliding gestures. So a lot of phones are offering this now, and you can just slide up from the left to go back. I can slide up from the middle to go home, and then slide up from the right to go to my recent apps, and you can see those all work very well. So I do like the virtual navigation bar because then it gives you that option of basically having a full screen and not having to have those software keys at the bottom. In Intelligent Assistant, you can see there's a few options there. So we have 3-finger screenshot. There is also that shortcut for screenshotting as well. And then of course you can always use that down and power button at the same time, holding those two at the same time to screenshot. But we'll go ahead and do the 3-finger screenshot, and you can see that one works really well. We can adjust some sensor calibrations. We can use the power button to jump to the camera. No matter what app you're in, you can just double press on the power button to jump to the camera. And then we also have lift to wake as well, which you can see I'm not using. Under security, of course, we do have Face ID, but the fingerprint sensor works really well, so I haven't really found a reason to use. So let's go ahead and just test that out real quick. So 1, 2, 3. And you can see that one's working really well. I'm just using my right and left index finger, and it's pretty much dead on every single time so far. Let's go ahead and go into System and see if there's anything in here worth mentioning. I don't really see any special settings in there worth mentioning. So like I mentioned, for the most part, this is running stock Android 9.0, but with a few tweaks in there as well. So go ahead and go back into the main settings, and we're going to go ahead and jump into the camera, because that's definitely some features that you'll want to take a look at. So one thing you'll notice is that, like, if I turn AI on, when we go into certain things, it will just kind of like automatically jump from camera to camera. And what it's doing is it's basically trying to use that AI technology to determine what the best camera is at the moment for your picture. But we have a ton of options over here. So over here in that little settings option, this is going to take us into a few different shots that we can do. So we have GIFs, filters, panorama, slow motion, intelligent scanning, and then pro mode. So intelligent scanning is going to be looking for a barcode or QR code. Under our settings, we can change our picture size. We can adjust it from 16:9, and you can see here we can automatically select it, but like I mentioned, it will use AI. We have zero shutter display here, anti-flicker. We can use touch to take a picture, so instead of using the button, we can use just a touch of the screen to take the picture. We have camera mute, location info, brand watermark, things like that. Now you can see right now it's automatically decided that right now it would be best to be in night mode, but we're going to go ahead and turn that off just to show you some of the other features. So this is our portrait mode right here. So portrait mode, of course, is going to and we'll actually take a look at that right now. So these were some nighttime shots. Those were fantastic. But here is a shot using the portrait mode right here. So notice that all the background's all blurred out. It does a fantastic job so far. Some more nighttime shots, because this is a super dark room. There was just a light over on the other end of the room, and it does a great job of illuminating that room, which is pretty impressive for a phone at this point. That night mode does work quite well, in my opinion, so far, but we'll have to do a lot more testing of it. But you can see here when it uses portrait mode, it's going to use that 16 and 5 megapixel camera, and you can adjust the blur here. So if you want it to have not a ton of background blur, you can adjust it down to 1, and then if you want it to have a lot of background blur, you can move it over here to the 7. It's just a slider, and you can kind of adjust that however you want. Coming down here at the bottom, we have our night mode, so you can automatically select night mode, or you can let it use that AI camera to select it for you. We do also have HDR options. Now that's also kind of a night mode of sorts. We have video. So let's go ahead and go into the video settings and see what we have here. So we can use the microphone, of course. Let's see what video qualities we have. So we have fine, which is 1080p. So it'll only shoot in 1080p. There is no option, which I wouldn't expect for a phone at this price point, but we don't have like a 4K or 2K option. But you know, sometimes you do get phones that have it, so nice to at least take a look. We have grid lines and then the volume key features. Let's go ahead and see what we can do there. So we can use the volume keys to zoom or for shutter, or we can use them to adjust our volume, of course. Let's go down here, and it's going to give us the exact same features we had earlier. So nothing changes when we go to video and hit our little shortcuts there. We have photo, so that's just the regular photo, and right now, again, I have it on portrait mode, but we can turn it on to AI mode as well. We have a 96 megapixel camera, so that's when you want to do that super zoom. So let's say you can't get real close to something, you just go ahead and take the shot, and then the idea behind that is you want to hold your camera still, obviously, but it's going to be able to allow you to zoom way in, to find some details that maybe you couldn't get if you were closer. We have a beauty mode, of course, for our front-facing selfie camera, and again, that's a 24 megapixel selfie camera, so we can make us a little bit more beautiful. And then over here we also have Pro mode to adjust it as well. Alright, so now it's time to test out that bottom firing speaker, but before we do that, I did want to mention that when you have it in YouTube, so I'm on YouTube right now just to test out the music, but you can see that this is obviously our regular display. That's our 4:3 display, and then we can zoom it in to fill the screen. That's just simply a pinch to zoom. And notice that there is a decent sized bezel here. I think they say there's a 91% screen to body ratio, whereas like the Moto G7 has an 83% because they actually have a larger bezel down here. Even though the phone typically looks basically about the same as this phone, there is a little bit bigger bezel down at the bottom. So just something I wanted to mention. But then of course here we can also use a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack as well. But let's go ahead and play some music just to test out the speaker. Alright, so it is definitely just a single bottom firing speaker. It doesn't sound bad. I would say it's pretty typical of most bottom firing speakers. It does get pretty decently loud. Of course, it's not as good as a front firing speaker, but I think for me, definitely a bottom firing speaker is preferable over a rear firing speaker for sure. Now, if you have any questions about the phone, go ahead and leave them down in the comments section. I'll be answering them in the comments all day today. Let me know what questions you guys have about the phone. Again, it's available for $200 today, only August 27th. For that price, after that, it does go up to the regular price of $249, I believe. So, that being said, let me know what you guys have questions about. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.